As it gets dark and you're suddenly aware that we're in for something very special.
Well, we've been expecting it for some time, but you never quite could anticipate the speed at which the countryside became dark.
Well, the speed is illustrated. We're now on a camera in Belgium watching the same site. This totality line is travelling at more than 1,500 miles an hour. It wasn't just the fact it went black though, was it? It was the temperature drop, the silence, and then the crowds reacting. It was a very moving experience.
I mean, it definitely was. I think we all commented to each other that if we were unaware what was about to happen.
Oh, there we have Richard, the second diamond ring.
And I think we saw a good example there of the way that we saw the sun first appearing down these valleys on the surface of the moon.
These give Bailey's beads.
That's right, yeah.
Which are speckles of light here on Earth. Now, actually, as this phenomenon travels eastward, of course, the vision of it will get better and better. But it has to be said, even in thick cloud, it was an experience which nothing can prepare you for.
Absolutely not. It's such a simple event to describe. It's simply the shadow passing over the surface of the Earth. But
this is Saarbrücken on the French border. They're 20 seconds away from the moment of totality. I'm just very jealous because I can understand now anybody who wants to travel the world to see one of these things. And what you're seeing there was the eeriest sight here. Suddenly, in the middle of the day, these flash cameras were the only light you could see. And this is a scene that's going to be repeated in towns and cities across Europe on the line of totality. Mauricio is still with us, who was here at Pendennis Castle at 11:11 on the 11th of August. That's a date you're not going to forget, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, right up there with the top sporting events of my life.
Come on, this was bigger.
Certainly longer in the preparation.
This is definitely Sky News you're watching. We're bringing you live pictures from the line of totality, and you can just see there what we're about to see as the sun returns. It is the quickest dawn you will ever see. And Richard, that was just as it was here. It was the quickest 2 minutes I have ever known, because suddenly on the horizon you could see the sun coming back, and indeed there is the moon gradually moving away from the sun.
Yeah, that 2 minutes seems to pass very quickly, but what seems to happen even quicker is at the end of totality, the speed with which things just return to normality again. It's almost unbelievable that you've just been through this experience, because the sky's bright again, everything's back to normal, the sun's back again. What a relief. It came back.
You weren't entirely sure, were you, that it was ever going to return? I think the look on people's faces says it all. They've been through a remarkable experience, a once-in-a-lifetime experience for most. And even with the umbrellas, and it's sad that here in Cornwall, and indeed obviously where we're looking in Europe, the weather has let us down, but nevertheless nothing can take away from the experience of this 1999 total eclipse. Richard, I mentioned on air one of the things that you noticed as that horizon appeared. The birds began singing again, and nature has a way of terrifying other aspects of nature, doesn't it?
What was interesting is that people have asked me whether the birds would go quiet. They'd heard these stories of the birds going quiet. I certainly wasn't conscious of the birds becoming quiet, but what was clearly noticeable was the sound of the seagulls as this sort of false dawn came around. The seagulls all seemed to wake up and think that it was dawn again, and it was quite noticeable.
We went through a dusk and a dawn in the space of a 10-minute period. With all the weather that went with it. It was like the middle of the night, and the weather was as cold. Now, let's just show you. That was, I mean, anybody watching that picture live, we've all seen it in various books, in newspapers. We've seen it recorded, but nothing prepared you for that live moment, did it?
Yeah, and one of the aspects that we've not looked at very closely yet, but which certainly would have been noticeable had it been clear, and I think you can see it on those pictures, as the little pink features around the edge of the black disk. These are prominences on the sun. This is the hot gas being blasted out from the sun out to huge distances, many times the diameter of the Earth, and you're actually getting a direct view here of what is actually a very active sun.
Now, one man who has been planning more than most for this moment was Robin Hughes, who brought his own telescope with him. How much good was it to you at the moment?
None at all, unfortunately, but nevertheless it's still been a very enjoyable experience, and not what I expected. It was so much darker than I anticipated. I imagine it's the cloud covers contributed a lot to that, but marvellous effect.
What was nice was that there were no lights, there was no human interruption. That rather sums up the day for you, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, yes. Try and keep it dry.
Will any astronomer today with that sort of equipment have got anything out of this eclipse if they were in this part of Cornwall?
No, not with this sort of weather. There's no way you can penetrate that sort of cloud. Very unfortunate, really.
Okay, now, well, if it was spooky here on land, I'd love to know what it was like if you were on a boat. That's the line of totality that we've been talking about. We've seen it in Tournai, we've seen it in Paris and Saarbrücken. It's heading now for Munich before it heads further. Romania actually is where you will have the longest sight of a total eclipse of the sun. We're 3 minutes away from Munich, and it has literally taken all our breath away, so forgive us if we sound overexcited, but we are. It has just been an awe-inspiring sight, not just the sight, a feeling, and we're still seeing it. The weather here is on the change. It's going to be a lot warmer later on today. Now, we were on firm ground, and I nearly fell off the back of my seat just trying to work out what was going on. What on earth was it like at sea? Let's find out. David Chater was on a boat in the middle of Falmouth Bay. Over to you, David.
Simon, the people here on board the good ship Enterprise were saying that the whole experience was weird, it was spooky, didn't go on long enough, there was too much light on the horizon, but overall they were eating their Cornish pasties, they were popping champagne, and they were absolutely delighted to be here despite the fact it's been pretty rough, it's been pretty cold, and we were getting squally rain showers. But it was an amazing experience. All along the coastline we saw the flashbulbs of people taking pictures of the moment of totality. I don't know what those photographs are going to be like, but let's talk to some of the people who spent £30 for this round trip at sea. What did you actually feel about that moment as it came over?
It was something rather special. It was didn't really know what to expect with all of this. Nighttime was the way it had been described by some, but it was nothing like nighttime at all. Just something completely different. You could see, whilst we were in darkness, there was clear daylight visible on the far horizons. It was just unreal. I don't think I'll see that again. I really don't. It was special.
If you had to write home about it, exactly what would you say?
It's difficult to describe. It's just an incredible experience. You had to be here, I think, and a disappointment, I guess, that we didn't see the disk of the moon crossing the sun because of the cloud, but nevertheless, just an unbelievable experience. It really is, I don't know, indescribable. I'm waffling now. I can't think of anything to say about it. It's brilliant.